and roll with it. Make a pick and roll with it. Betting weekly. Fast break. From coast to coast and way downtown. From coast to coast and way downtown. From coast to coast and way downtown.
Welcome into the latest edition of Betting Weekly Fast Break. I'm Doug Kezirian alongside Albert Nguyen, also known to many of you as Analytics Capper. We have one game on the NBA slate tonight. We'll touch on tomorrow night's Knicks Celtics as a shorthanded Boston squad staved off elimination. We'll also talk a little WNBA futures as opening night is tomorrow. So plenty of round ball to get into on this show. Albert, I know you're fired up, man.
I love it, man. This is my favorite part of the year because you're gonna get basketball every single night. I know you mentioned Boston staved off the elimination there. I mean, this is a little teaser, but I think they're gonna do it again in Game 6. We'll get to that later.
Friday night at Madison Square Garden, Knicks fans, I wouldn't want to be in a room with them if this has to go 7 and they don't get it done at home, and they are just fragile in that situation. So we'll get to all that. Last time you and I were on the show, we discussed the game 5 of Nuggets and Thunder. And just a reminder to everyone to head over to the House Specials tab on the Bet Rivers app to check out the latest boosted bets for tonight's NBA playoff game, which should be posted shortly. Also, tear into the action with Bet Rivers prop packs. Place the same game parlay of at least $10 on any NBA game to receive a prop pack, which can win you boosts and bonus credits. If the target score on your prop pack card hits during the game, you win the prize indicated on the card. Head to the Bet Rivers app now to tear in to the action. So, Thunder lead 3-2. Huge win in the last game, executed down the stretch in a 2-2 series. Jokic was phenomenal, had the pirouette, fadeaway 3, but they've really pulled the last 2 games out of nowhere. So now they're on the road with a chance to advance to the Western Conference Finals at Bet Rivers. They are 4.5-point road chalk. 217.5 is the over/under. It's come down a little bit. And remember, Albert, last time I thought this was my best bet of the playoffs. It got there every other night. Now we're in altitude where games 3 and 4 went way under the total, even overtime in game 3, and it still got there. I know the market has adjusted a few points, and actually game 5 went up to like 221.5. I'm on the under again. It's not my biggest bet of the playoffs or anything like that, like the last game, but just does it seem too easy to you? I mean, just initially, don't we have to bet the under given how thin the Nuggets depth is, the travel, the every other night, what this Denver team's been doing since game 5 of the Clippers series that went 7? How does this go up and down and over this total?
Well, first of all, congratulations on hitting, your biggest bet of the playoffs. That's a nice hit there. Very, very sharp angle. Um, to answer your question, I don't think it's too easy at all. We're talking from a Denver perspective where there's fatigue, there's travel, there's elevation. But in addition to that, Doug, let's talk about it from a OKC perspective as well. They are playing elite individual and team defense. I know Jokic is still getting his numbers, but that is exactly what OKC is scheming their defense to have. Allow Jokic to be Jokic. He's arguably the best offensive player who's ever lived, right? A lot of people are making that argument. Let him do his thing, but let's shut everyone else down. Jamal Murray has struggled. We all know about Michael Porter Jr.'s struggles and injuries, and Aaron Gordon, he's been clutch and he's hit a lot of clutch shots. First round and this round. But throughout the entire series, offensively, he also has been struggling as well. And I think OKC's going to continue that blueprint. I like the under as well. It's not an official play for me at 217.5, but I do I lean it. I'm hoping for a high scoring first quarter where the home crowd is going crazy. Denver hits a few threes that they normally have been missing throughout the series. And I'm going to get in on the under for a live bet.
Okay, so yeah, has that been the trend of the series? First quarter high scoring, because I know we had the all-time lowest first quarter scoring. What was it in Game 4 and on Sunday? But that was a 36-hour turnaround in altitude. I don't expect that, but you think the first quarter will be a little bit of up and down?
I do, just because we know Jokic is playing the entire first quarter. He's done this the last 4 or 5 years now, where he has dominated first quarters, similar to Luca scoring. But Jokic does it by sharing the ball in the first quarter. He's such a fantastic player, man. You can tell early on he is reading the game. Does he need to get his teammates involved, or does he need to do the scoring himself? He does all that surveying, if you will, in that first quarter, and you can kind of see him go through that tabulation. And depending on how he plays, again, if he starts out hot or his teammates start out hot, I'm gonna fade that live. I think it's a good angle, because not only is it tough to continue to do that against a really elite defense, but then the other things that we just mentioned will start to settle in: fatigue, elevation, big must-win game at home. So I like the live under only if it's a high-scoring first quarter.
Okay. I'm on the under to begin with. I just think there's so many more ways to win the under than the over. I know the market's adjusted. And to your point, looking it through the lens of OKC, this is a team that plays tight, right? Like they are sort of in their heads a little bit. They don't have the championship medal and experience that maybe the Denver Nuggets have or the Celtics had, even though the Boston crumbled when they had the 20-point leads. But I just think Thunder are going to play a little tight, and the Nuggets have outplayed them in so many ways this series. And Denver was so close to taking a 3 games to 1 lead, if not for an absolute stink job. And even the last game, the Jokic's teammates were what, 1 for 16 in the fourth quarter. So it's been remarkable. I just think the possessions get measured for OKC if they have the lead. Things get tight. I just don't think it's going to be an up and down situation like that. And if it is, fine. You can't be afraid to lose a bet. I just think there's more ways to win on the under than the over. What about the side? I know you have a play here.
Yeah, I do like the Thunder -4.5 here. It's going to be an official play for me. I think OKC, I know you mentioned Denver struggled there to end the fourth quarter. Basically, every non-Jokic shot was a miss, right, in that fourth quarter. But to me, OKC as a team really, really grew up in game 4 and game 5. I think those two games was a big step for them moving forward, not only in this year, but let's say they end up winning the title or losing the title, they're gonna look back and look back at those 2 games and really understand that they out executed one of the best fourth quarter, dynasties, if you will, in the last 4 or 5 years. So I think OKC is their time is now. They're also younger, fresher, more athletic, longer. I think I think this is Denver's kind of last kitchen sink game here tonight, Doug, and it's gonna fall short. I don't think they're gonna just come out in the fourth quarter and start hitting shots, right? I think they've peaked as a team. Every single year, Doug, you've seen this team kind of lose players, Bruce Brown, KCP, and they haven't really replaced them with homegrown talent outside of Christian Brown. And I think that's going to come to a head tonight. And I think OKC is not only going to win, but they're going to win going away in this game.
See, I'd be playing Strother more. I think he's perfect. He's got length. He can hit the open three and defense, and he doesn't screw things up like maybe Westbrook does. But I will say, and I don't have the exact, excuse me, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but betting trends, road chalk in game 6 with a chance to close it out. So the better team with the higher seed, they are really, really good ATS. I always like telling the story. When I was at ESPN, I was sitting next to the researcher, and it was a situation like this. I think it was second round even. And I said, these series that have gone back and forth, conventional wisdom says, well, the home team's going to win, and it's going to go 7. And I feel like I've gotten my head kicked in so many times thinking that. And then he looked it up. He's like, actually, it's like 10-1 the last 11. The road favorite in Game 6 with a chance to win. They can't be down 3-2. They have to be up 3-2. They actually do cover. So I'm not on the side because I think this Thunder team is pushing a boulder up the hill, and I don't know if they get it done. And this Nuggets team has outplayed them. I would love the Nuggets plus the points in Game 7 if it got there.
Yeah.
They're plus 900 to win the series. It's gonna be tough on the road, and their dogs in 6, but man, I just don't believe this Thunder team. I think to your point, they are gonna look back on this series, and they grew up the last 2 games for sure, but I do wonder just what defense Denver's gonna throw at them. I mean, it's remarkable that this series is still where it is, with the coach being replaced right before the playoffs, Jokic carrying a team, and Jokic shot 33% the previous 3 games before game 5. So it's been a lot of smoke and mirrors. That's why I just have to side with the total.
I like it. I mean, that's again, Doug mentioned this earlier. You don't have to bet everything, and then you can't be scared at losing a bet. So for me, like if, for example, that under that Doug is on, if it's not a high scoring first quarter, I don't have to live bet it, right? Even though that's the angle I'm looking at. But I do feel very confident on OKC's side here at -4.5. I think they're just the better, deeper, and again more younger athletic team, and it's their time. I think Denver's time has already passed.
Okay, so official play for you at -4.5. Official play for me at under 217.5. Any props that caught your eye? At least you flushed out. Jokic went under for a few games and then he flew over in the last game. And I know as a sports bettor, we're all prisoners of the moment, even though we're drilled into our head not to be. Over 28.5 at -107 is for the Jokic prop. Anything catch your eye, or at least your thought process on some of these? Because I know Brown's been wide open in some of these games, and he just hasn't hit as many shots, but he certainly can. I know one stat from our research team at Bet Rivers, Christian Brown has made at least 2 3-pointers in 7 of the Nuggets' last 8 games when they are home underdogs. Any thoughts on the prop market here?
I think when it comes to these big road playoff games, you always have one or two, bench players step up. And the guy that I'm really looking into, and I have no angle on this, I just know he's gotten 23, 28, and 24 minutes in the last 3 games, is Alex Caruso. He's been playing so well. He's hitting his shots, especially timely 3 pointers. And then he's going to get offensive rebounds, or at least try to go for those offensive rebounds. So when I look at the prop market, 7.5 points seems really, really easy for me. For someone who's the veteran on this team who might get 30 minutes tonight, that's someone that I would be eyeing in.
Yeah, because he was big in what, game 1 with those shots. Sometimes he's out there just to play defense, and all these guys get the ball to OKC, SGA in the 4th quarter and just give him the ball and kind of get out of the way. So that would be the only like concern. And the ball finds the open guy. So if Caruso's open, great, ball will find him. He had 13 in the last game. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Um, and but you're right, like 7.5 is a really low number, and that does jump out to me in that regard. One game I like to that I sort of stumbled into with Chris Massero the other day, and I like playing it. So can I interest you in? So these are sort of like long shot tickets. I was asked peppering him with a bunch of, and actually, by the way, last night Julius Randle, leading scorer in the game at plus $5 or so. So this does happen. Can I interest you in a Jalen Williams leading scorer at plus 1,000? So 10 to 1.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's a great angle. These like must-win type games, or, backs against the wall type games, you expect your superstars to show up. But there's been so many examples throughout NBA history where, the second guy or a bench player ends up winning the game for them. So Jalen Williams, we've already seen him have a great game this series. We know he can take Jamal Murray one-on-one pretty easily. So once he gets going, then they start switching, the word is escaping me, but they'll play SGA, and then they'll let SGA sit and have Jalen Williams comes in, and he's the number one option. Yeah, they stagger him. There's a word.
Dagger.
Yeah, so they stagger Jalen Williams, and that's when Christian Brown is the primary defender. But Jalen Williams, if he's aggressive when Christian Brown is guarding SGA, attacking Jamal Murray, I can definitely see that. And they all shoot great percentages. And you also know if it's a game where Denver is down 10 and they're playing the foul game at the end, right? SGA and Jalen Williams are both great free throw shooters. They might be doubling SGA off the inbounds pass and leaving Jalen Williams open to get those free throws.
And it's the usual suspects at the top of this index bet. SGA plus 100, Jokic plus 150. Remember, Jokic was really under his points prop before last game's 40 burger. I will throw this. Can I interest you in a Jamal Murray plus 700 leading scorer? Because we haven't seen the 40 burger yet, like we saw against the Clippers. Um, Murray is a guy, and he's been sort of in a groove lately. Just hasn't gone for the crazy game. Just throwing it out there. I'm not there yet. I would prefer Williams at 10-1, but just throwing it out there.
No, I like Jamal Murray. You know how high I am when it comes to playoff Jamal Murray, but this is like the worst matchup for him. He has to go up against guys like Lou Dort, Isaiah Joe, Caruso, Casey Wallace. Like these guys are studs on defense, and they're meant to guard the combo guard like Jamal Murray. So I don't see it. The only way that he's gonna hit, the highest score if he goes like 7 for 8 on threes or something like, and I just don't see it. If we're talking about fatigue, I would say he's the most tired player out of anybody on Denver.
It's a great point about the defenders, the multiple defenders, and OKC's obviously a top defensive team, but they have a lot of guys on the ball perimeter, and that's how Murray tries to generate points. Yes, he'll get a high screen and roll with Jokic and get an open jumper, but to be the top scorer in the game, you need to go off, and it's really hard to go off um, against these elite perimeter defenders. A little bit lower payouts, but obviously more attainable benchmarks. You mentioned Caruso, 3+ 3-pointers, so over 2.5, plus 260.
That's tough. That's tough. Because he only gets 2 or 3 attempts a game, right? I think he had 4 attempts last game, but 3 is asking for 2. If he hit, how about this? If he hits
He
3,
went off in game one, right?
you said it's plus 380
260,
or
260.
260. If he hits more than 3 3-pointers in the game, I would venture to see what the alternate spread for OKC is at that same value point at plus 260. Because
Maybe same game parlay.
that to me is signaling a potential blowout.
Okay. Because he was 5 for 9 in game one. So what you could do, again, well, that's the beauty of live TV here. So if a same game parlay with Caruso at least 3 threes, and then you do the sliding scale for the game line, right? So you have the game line, it's 4.5. Let's say alt line of 8.5.
Mhm.
You add that, and that's plus 650. So Thunder minus 8.5, Caruso 3+3s plus 850. Huh? Huh?
I think Caruso is very indicative on how successful this Thunder team against this specific opponent with the Denver Nuggets. I don't know how he's going to play against the T-Wolves. He might average 25 and they still may lose against Minnesota, but this specific opponent is perfect because Denver's defense is definitely bracketing around SGA and forcing guys like Chet and Caruso to beat him in the corner threes. And if they're making those threes, I think it's a wrap.
So it's the irony is game one, Caruso was 5 of
Yeah.
9
Yeah.
and they lost. But they were up 10-13 the entire second half. So it was correlated to, a blowout and a convincing win of covering the 8.5. And so I would say throw something else on there like the total, but this game can go under or over in that kind of situation. And maybe Caruso's playing because no one else can hit the side of a barn
Yeah.
because they're just playing tight like they did against the Mavericks last year. And that's why they were eliminated because Jalen Williams was terrible in that series based on where he sets the bar. I mean, he's all-star caliber player. So yeah, I like that same game parlay. So that's just something to keep in mind when things are correlated. The unwritten rules parlays are bad. Parlays are bad, but I like SGPs because I think you can kind of find a thread. I know one sharp guy I know who does a lot of these. He does sort of the uncorrelated, like he'll go Giannis triple double and then the other team's money line, right? Because
Mhm.
conventional wisdom was so in this case, Jokic triple double with OKC money line, although it's not worth, although OKC money line's worth it, but maybe in games at home, they're not because it's minus 500 at home. But things like that, that's something to factor in. So you can get some really nice payouts if you kind of know the path to victory, to borrow a phrase from boxing or MMA. It's the path to victory could be just Caruso because you want that championship experience. Remember, he had it with the Lakers in the bubble, and defense is obviously very important. He can even get switched and guard Jokic a little bit. He was a force in game one, and then hits
Yeah.
the open short corner three. So we'll see. But I like that plus 650. That's an interesting play. But officially, just a play for each of us. I'm on under 217.5, and you're laying the 4.5 with the top seed in the West, the Oklahoma City Thunder, with the Minnesota Timberwolves awaiting them in the next round. Sign up for the newsletter at Betting Weekly's Studios. Let me repeat that. bettingweeklystudios.com for weekly betting tips and the entire newsletter. So a lot of good information from Nigel and the fellas on that. And they've been great. So, and this is a brand new show. I want to just repeat Monday through Friday, Betting Weekly Fast Break, 3 p.m. Eastern, new Pacific. We are on every single day breaking down hoops, and that includes the WNBA. And Albert and I will get into the W momentarily. But I first want to get your opinion on tomorrow night's game 6 at the Garden. Celtics with a limited Porzingis who only played, I believe, 11 minutes. Obviously, Tatum with the Achilles surgery. They circle the wagons, rally around their fallen star, and extend the series. Now the Knicks are favored for the first time in this series. Over-under's gone up a little bit. It continues to go up. It's 210. Knicks, oh man, they can taste the next round, but there's some pressure here. How do you see this game playing out?
I think it's just too storybook for the Knicks to come out Friday night, Madison Square Garden. They're playing their hated rivals in Boston Celtics to just win the game convincingly. So I do think there's some value here in Boston. So Doug just hit his biggest bet of the playoffs with the under on Denver OKC game 5. I hit my biggest play with the Celtics -5 yesterday. I loved it. I loved it as soon as Tatum went down. I know it's, hoping for a full recovery for him, obviously, but I think it's important that there's value when their star player goes out. There's value when it's expected the home team just goes out and win easily. It's only a -2.5 spread. I think, you know, in general, Doug, when it comes to all sports, I don't like short favorites in general. And so this is this almost hits every signal for me. It's not going to be the biggest. It's not going to be as big of a bet as Game 5 Boston, but I do like Boston to keep it competitive in Game 6, and it might take a game winner from Brunson or Mikal Bridges mid range, to win this. And if they win, they'll win by 1 or 2. But if they lose, I do like the Knicks to come back and recover and win
Mhm.
in Game 7 to advance to the Eastern Conference Finals.
So you could do a rollover parlay or mechanical parlay, as people like to call them. So you would just do Celtics money line in Game 6, and if you maybe you can kind of hedge your bet. Let's say you can do 80% of your bet on the spread plus 2.5 and 20% of the money, and then just take that and roll it over to Knicks money line in Boston in Game 7, and maybe something happens. Hopefully nobody gets hurt again, but you can always abort that plan if something changes your mind between games 6 and 7. So that's something to do. But Knicks were like -650 or something going into game 5. Now they're -286 at Bet Rivers on the series price. Man, what a scene that would be if the Celtics actually win game 6 at the Garden and force a
Doug,
game 7 on Sunday.
let me pose a question back to you, Doug. So game 5, the Celtics were -5 at home without Tatum. Let's see if let's say we do see a game 7. That means the Celtics have won 2 straight without Tatum. What do you expect that line to be, game 7?
And let's say it's like a Celtics 4-point win or something like that, and nobody hurt, and Porzingis still doesn't look right. Um, I'd say 4.5. I think the 5 it was 4.5. I think it got moved. The market moved to 5.5. So I think it goes back to 4.5. Because game sevens, remember, unders are a huge thing. So I think the lower total, you can't have the side too high. But yeah, you're right. There will be some momentum. I just worry that everyone played so well. So I just don't think the Celtics are going to look as good tomorrow night. Now they don't need to. They don't need to win by 20. They just need to win by 1. So I just think a guy like Luke Cornett won't have a near double double. Brown may not have a near triple double. Derek White may not have 7 million threes, but I think they're going to play well enough to win. The question is, will they win? And to your point, Brunson, execution, the new modern day Mr. Clutch. It would be fascinating. I don't have an opinion on the side. I lean Knicks, but that's the only opinion I have. But I'll break it down tomorrow with Wes Reynolds. But Good stuff. Good angles. I really like that. Let's talk WNBA. Season starts tomorrow night with 3 games, and then more on Saturday with the other sort of star players and star teams playing. We now have an expansion team. It's a 13-team league. 8 make the playoffs. Last year we had a couple teams under 500 make the playoffs. I think we're looking at that this year as well. And we know about Caitlin Clark, but I feel like it's a more balance at the top. So 2 years ago, when the Liberty played the Aces, it was super teams, right? It was like the 80s Celtics Lakers. Now there's balance. The Aces aren't as good. Liberty have some moving parts. We'll see how good they are. They are the favorites. They are the team with the highest win total. But I think there's more teams at the top. You and I both liked the Lynx all year. They nearly got it done, went to overtime in game 5 of the championship game. But you see the tier here. You see the 4 legs or 4 teams at the top with the Liberty Fever, Lynx, and Aces. So Caitlin Clark and the Fever are legit. And then there's a drop off. And I think Mercury and Storm are probably as low as you can go with teams that could conceivably win it all. I don't think any of the other teams have remotely a shot. I mean, I wouldn't even make the dream 1,000,000 to 1. So, what's your initial? We can go a lot of different ways. What's your sort of initial sort of overview of the upcoming season?
I would say I agree with you. I think Indiana is a very solid team. They made a couple really smart moves in the offseason, adding veterans around Caitlin Clark. But it seems like, and you'll know more about this about the market than me, but it seems like the Indiana Fever are kind of like the Lakers or Duke or the Cowboys. There's a little bit of tax, right, with Caitlin Clark. So all of these futures, in my opinion, when it comes to the Fever, whether it's most wins, whether it's number one seed or winning the championship, I feel like you're not getting the right value. And again, I don't know the market. I don't know where all the money is going right now, but I would kind of stay away from the Fever futures, especially if, you know, especially if like half the fans that are going to watch this year are watching because of Caitlin Clark, right? So that's my 2 cents. But I agree. I think they are a top 4 team, and I think it's not only them 4 and like tiers 2 and 3. I actually think it's only them 4 and nobody else. I think the
Yeah.
second tier is such a big drop off that you can actually include them, with the lesser teams.
Yeah, it's tier 1 and 3, maybe. We skipped 2,
Yeah,
right? It's like
yeah.
4, 1 A, B, C, D, and then 5, if you will, the fifth play. And then there's a giant drop off. But so it's funny. I'm smiling because I think I was like, this is literally what I wrote about. And I have a piece coming out tomorrow on The Athletic breaking down Caitlin Clark related futures. And my intro is how odds makers are using tricks they did with Tiger Woods.
Mm,
So it's Tiger, Cowboys, Lakers, these huge brands, Notre Dame football, in the one-way markets. Okay, that's the key with this. When there's a one-way market, like to win it all, or Caitlin Clark MVP, then they're going to suppress those odds. They're going to skew them lower. Like Tiger in his prime, you were getting like plus 130 when it should have been like plus 300. And even Tiger not in his prime, the futures for the Masters and stuff, there was just so many fans betting with their hearts. And fans like to do that because sports bettors are also sports fans and they feel connected and emotionally invested if they have skin in the game, even if it's a few bucks. They want the ticket and they want extra sort of oomph on their rooting interest. I talked to one odds maker and they said probably in a vacuum, we would have the Fever up there, but not necessarily the second favorite. We'd have them like the fourth favorite, maybe behind the Lynx. So there is a little bit of boost and tax that they're getting. So you nailed it. It's the individual people like Clark, like to pay to apples, Tiger, but the teams and sort of speak. So you're absolutely right. Like we heard this when Luka got traded to the Lakers, the Western Conference futures, the championship futures, everything was just the avalanche of money. There's a huge amount of money on Caitlin Clark teams. Now the difference is they're actually a title threat, unlike maybe the Lakers this year or some of the Cubs with some of the dead years, things like that. So that's something to keep in mind. However, there are two-way markets, and some of the two-way markets I think do have some value.
mm.
That's when point spreads are involved, right? You can bet both sides. That's what we mean by two-way market. The over/under for win totals, things like that. The bookmakers and the odds makers have to do a fair line and can't skew odds when it's a two-way market. So that's something to keep in mind. Like we can start there, Albert. Like I like their over 31 and a half win total. I think this team is absolutely loaded. Last year, Clark had to carry a team, limited options. Kelsey Mitchell was a returning all-star, but her father passed right before the season, so she was dealing with that, still dealing with it, obviously, but it was sudden. Aaliyah Boston, that whole team needed to sort of adapt to the environment that is Caitlin Clark, the hoopla, and then also just playing alongside sort of a ball dominant guard. And remember, they had 11 games in their first 20 days or whatever it was, just absurd. They started 2-9 and they got going at the end of the season. But now you bring in these veterans. They have Sophie Cunningham off the bench. They're loaded in my eyes. I think 31 and a half plus money is a great bet on the over win total.
I agree. And the other, you mentioned the team had to adjust, but also the head coach. And I think you're bringing in someone in Stephanie White that, you know, has been around championship caliber teams in the WNBA before. She knows exactly what to expect. No one knew the Caitlin how big the Caitlin Clark effect was gonna be, especially during the season, and it just grew and grew as it became like more massive. And I think they're going to be a lot more ready as a team, as a franchise. The staff members, the head coaches, everybody's going to be a lot more ready for it. Caitlin herself will be more ready for it. So I do think this is a team that is going to go out and try to win the most games they can. A lot of these veteran teams are just like the NBA, they're not load managing, but they're also hoping to peak at the right time. Whereas I think Indiana is just going to go 100 miles per hour right off the bat. So I do like that look a lot, and they're gonna go up against a ton of teams. Doug mentioned that there's 13 teams in the league now, six in the West, sorry, seven in the West, six in the East. East, in my opinion, are the lesser of the two conferences. And Indiana getting to play those teams four times gives them the upper hand. So I like the Indiana fever over wins for sure, or even like the most wins if you look at those odds.
Yeah, it's plus 320 or so in that market. We want you to get involved in the conversation on the chat in our YouTube. We have a lot of comments coming in. T Lynch, you guys talking WNBA today? I'm ready to fire on season long bets. We sure are, T Lynch. Thanks for checking in. And Ken Peacock also was chiming in on Celtics-Knicks. Now he echoes what you were saying, Albert. Going to be interesting to see what the Fever look like with a new coach. And yeah, I totally agree. She comes in. I mean, Christy Sides was just sort of overwhelmed, but to your point, the whole organization was. No one knew what to expect. But Stephanie White, former coach of the year, she's an Indiana native, Purdue product. She has uh, obviously roots there, but she has more championship pedigree. I believe one as an assistant coach in both the W and even in college, if I'm remembering correctly. But either way, uh, Clark has just given her public like accolades, complimented her basketball mind. So
Mhm.
all stars aligning, and there's just a lot of vets there too. So I think they're going to be they're legit loaded. Now on the Bet Rivers app, there's some options you have triple doubles for Caitlin Clark in the regular season because early on she had a couple double doubles. I believe with rebounds, she had a triple double if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I now they're better rebounding team. The front line has more help this year, so I don't know how many rebounds she's going to have to get. But maybe old habits die hard, and she's just so used to sagging back and getting the long rebounds. But over 4.5 triple doubles plus 225. Now we should also recognize and let people know the regular season for the WNBA is now longer. It was 40 games the last couple of years. Now it's 44. So there's four more games added to the regular season schedule. And they're saying, will there be five? So 1/9 of the regular season, right? So 11% of the games will she have a triple double, but you're getting plus 225. I'm not there yet. I think the rebounds are going to be tough. I think the double doubles are going to be a walk in the park. So now there'll be times where she'll have 8 or 9 rebounds and they'll like let her get a rebound if it's a blowout and things like that. But I would need more than plus 225 for 5 or more triple doubles.
I'm right there with you. I'm not there at the five triple doubles. The other thing you have to think about is if Indiana is loaded, healthy, and playing well, hitting threes, they potentially will be in a lot of blowouts as well, Doug. So
Yeah.
Caitlin Clark might not be closing games if they're already up 20, 25 points.
Sitting out those fourth quarters in blowouts. And I agree with you, what you were saying. I think it's worth repeating. Every year in the NBA, we see teams who just take the regular season a little too seriously. Memphis Grizzlies come to mind when they were, and the Rockets when they had Harden and CP3. They wanted to get the 1 seed against the Warriors in that run. We've seen certain teams in the East, like Cleveland this past year, was all about the 1 seed. I think Indiana is going to be one of those teams. So that's something to keep in mind. Jules chiming in. I like Minnesota to get it done this year. Yeah, the Lynx were right there. Love their offense, and it's funny they just like give up on rebounds. They were I think dead last in rebounds last year because they just spread the floor so beautifully. They all bomb threes. Nafisa Collier's a baby Jokic, if you will, plays the game in the high post, the low post. She can shoot three. She's fantastic. She's in the MVP discussion. I believe she was the MVP of the Unrivaled, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong there, but she's clearly one of the top players in the W. Cheryl Reeves coming back. She had some firm comments when she didn't think the whistle went their way in the finals. I love this this Lynx team. I just wonder if that was their year. You know, we like to think if a team doesn't win it, then it can't be their year. That just may have been their year and their opportunity, and there's more good teams. Like you mentioned, the top tier. I think the Aces are going to come back in the discussion. I think the Fever are on the rise. I worry about the Lynx just not having it all kind of come together and be that great. And just a lot of things need to go right when you're a 3-point dependent team. We have a great coach in Cheryl Reeves. She's an Olympic coach. I mean, she's awesome. And I love Collier, and they're young enough. And I read some comments about the preseason saying, hey, last year we had to sort of peak midseason and then finish strong. Now we're sort of like good to start the year. So maybe it's like the Spurs when they lost on the Ray Allen shot, come back the next year and get over the hump and win it all.
It's tough for me to back the Lynx and win it all just because not only did they peak at the wrong time last season, but I don't think their offense is going to be sneaking up on anybody this year. The thing with them last year was no one expected them to bomb threes like they did last year, and they were on fire for so much of that season. They had one or two games where they were cold, but for the most part, they were an excellent, amazing 3-point shooting team. I just don't think the elite defenses in this league is going to allow them to shoot that many threes again. They're going to run them off the threes and see if they can, score on the inside. But Minnesota, from a talent standpoint, I don't think they've dropped off or lessened by any chance. I think Doug explained it really well. Is I think the other three teams in the tier have all improved, and I think that's just going to lessen the Lynx's chance.
Yeah, so the Liberty lose Courtney Vandersloot, and she's back in Chicago now. But she was kind of a weak link. Nothing against her, but she was a liability defensively, getting up there in years. They did get a lot better. Bring in Natasha Cloud, who's awesome.
Yeah.
So Liberty, I think Brianna Stewart had some offseason procedure, so maybe they take a while to get going. Right? There's a little bit of a championship hangover. I'm not the hugest believer in Stewie. I think she's a slightly overrated, but the balance of the team is really good. I do think Cloud's an upgrade. They bring in Johannes for the full season. She's awesome. And the Liberty are going to be right there. I mean, they're the rightful favorites. Let's call it that. They're the rightful favorites at plus 200.
And I think Sabrina, for all the hype and attention that she had gotten up to last year, I think last year, in my opinion, was the first year that she lived up to all of that. Not only did she live it, but she went over that, right? Especially how she played in the playoffs there, hitting all those huge clutch shots. So I do think the Liberty is definitely one of the teams that, obviously one of the
Yeah.
contenders, but they're going to be a team just like Boston this year and just like LeBron teams in years past, where they know they are one of the elite teams and they don't have to show it every single game in the regular season. They're a team that wants to peak at the end.
It'll be interesting to see. They have the Bulls. They're going to get all the accolades, right? And the fact that they won it. But before there was Caitlin Clark, there was Sabrina Ionescu, to your point. And I love everything about her. I love her in interviews. She just says, people think we like chirp at each other. Like we can be competitive too. Like we can, want to win. Doesn't mean we're hating each other. It just means we're competitive and trying to win. So I know you have some season futures before we get into the game one point spreads and sides and totals. Any other futures? I know you got some fun angles here.
Yeah, I was looking at two things. So one is both are Caitlin Clark related. I mean, you have to have some Caitlin Clark material
Sure.
when it comes to WNBA, right? But most assists, I don't think there's anybody close to her. Doug, you can look up the odds there, but I think she's going to be able to. After the Olympics last year, you saw a different Caitlin Clark. She was the spear of the offense, and she was doing everything, not only from scoring, but definitely playmaking as well. That's where you saw all the double doubles and the triple doubles kind of come in after that Olympic break. And I think she's going to continue that. She is the face of the franchise, face of the league, and she's going to have the ball in her hands 80% of the time. So I think that is pretty set in stone. The other thing is Angel Reese, most rebounds. I know she's not the most gifted player offensively or even defensively, but when it comes to missing your own shot and grabbing your own rebounds, there's no one like her in the league. So if you can somehow parlay those two, I know Bet Rivers you cannot, but I think that's an interesting angle. It might be a little too easy. The other thing I want to get your thoughts here is Caitlin Clark most threes. Right now, it's minus 132 at Bet Rivers. There's a lot of other guys, or sorry, other girls in this league that shoot a ton of threes. Arike, Sabrina, that we've mentioned. But Caitlin Clark, don't you expect her to even shoot more threes in her second year coming out of her rookie year?
I'm torn on this one. She's the rightful favorite for sure. But couple things. I do think she's going to be awesome to start. So last year you mentioned the Olympic break. She got to reach, and don't forget, she went to the championship game in college right before that. Then she did the draft in New York, all the hoopla. She was burning the candle so hard. And then they did the 11-day games in 20 days. So after the Olympic break, which she did not compete in, so she got to recharge, she was fantastic. Okay. But she was still carrying a thin team. So I do think she's going to be lights out. I think she bulked up a little bit. Her strength is going to be that much better. But I do think she understands the team concept, right? She's going to get her teammates involved. She's still going to have the logo threes, but I think she's going to be a much more of a pass first mentality point guard most of the season because you have DeWanna Bonner, you have Sophie Cunningham,
Mhm.
you have Natasha Howard, you have all the, and then
It's a
again,
loaded, it's,
Mitchell and
it's a loaded team. It's
yeah, Mitchell and Boston. They have 4 All-Stars returning. Clark's one of them, but 4 All-Stars and Natasha Howard is the 5th, and she averaged 17 and a half points last year. Like they're totally loaded. So I would actually think there is value on Arike Gumbawale at 7 to
Mhm.
1. I understand Plum, but she's also not surrounded by Asia Wilson and all these open looks. And Cameron Brink's not back. I would look at Agumbawale at 7 to 1. Paige Beckers is going to be the point guard. She's going to want to get her the ball. Arike is not afraid to shoot. Hint, hint, she chucks a lot. So I could see Arike doing that, and it's 7 to 1. Now she has to make them. It's not just shooting them; it's making them. I think we know that Agumbawale is probably going to lead the league in attempts. I like the idea of like Mabry and McBride. McBride at 40 to 1 is not bad, to be honest. McBuckets for a reason. Um, Sabrina is in the mix too. So that's why she's 6 to 1. I would look at a Gumbawale at 7 to 1. I think Arike can do it. I would not bet the minus 132 at Kayla. I would do the minus 400 assist leader in my sleep. Now, granted, they're different prices and you have to win, obviously, but I do think that is free money. I think injury is the only thing that prevents it. I think she's going to average like 13, 14 assists. I really do. I think she's just going to be carving up defenses because they're surrounded by such talent. Remember last year, there were social media videos of teammates dropping the ball out of bounds and things like that. And if it's not a clean catch, the turnover goes on Clark if it's a transition situation. Missed layups, and you're always going to have missed layups in the W. That's fine, just because no one's dunking and playing at the rim like the NBA. But I do think she's surrounded by more competent players and more talent. It's just going to be a lot of open shots and a lot of layups. I mean, Bonner's going to have just layup after layup because she had him with Alyssa Thomas when she was running the court.
Man, if you say she's gonna average 12, 13 assists, so let's say 19 points, 12 assists, 8 rebounds. We're talking about Magic Johnson here. That is incredible.
I mean, yeah, it's Steph Curry, right? It's peak Steph Curry, but it's a different situation. Maybe she won't average 12. Maybe it'll be like 11 assists, but her over under for averaging points is 21.4. I like the under just because I think she's going to be passing a bunch. And to your point, she's going to be sitting out fourth quarters and blowouts. She has 3 all-star teammates and then a girl who averaged 17 and a half points last year. Like, and then they're bringing in Sophie Cunningham off the bench, who is a 3-and-D player and will bomb open shots. Like this team, I don't understand how they like made it all work under the cap. Now I know they traded Nalissa Smith, who was a number 2 overall pick, and they things like that. But they're loaded.
That's
They
actually a
really are.
very interesting topic we can discuss on a different show. But the cap with the WNBA, is there a luxury tax? Is there an apron, second apron, all that kind of stuff? I would love to learn more because we know from a revenue standpoint what Caitlin Clark is bringing in on a
Yeah.
nightly basis for this team. It doesn't even matter what the cap is, right? Because she's just going to make more money for that team than what the cap is currently set at. So it makes sense that they have basically five all-stars on their team.
Think at opening night tomorrow night. I'm on the show tomorrow with Wes Reynolds. I'll break down those games much more thoroughly with him. But obviously, this is your last time on the show, so we want to get your opinions. You got some Friday and Saturday games to break down relatively quickly as we wind things down. We want you guys to get involved in the conversation. I know a lot of people chiming in. Ken Peacock saying the Fever should shoot more threes. Threes equal rebounds. When we were talking about Caitlin Clark's ability to get triple doubles, her over under 4.5. What about the opening night and Saturday, opening weekend? Any games, any sides or totals?
I think there's two narratives here. So Dallas Wings are going to be hosting the, Minnesota Lynx. We talked about how good they were last year, coming off losing the championship. There might be some hangover there, but the narrative with Paige, first game at home, I think there's value in Dallas there at +7.5. The other thing is the other team is Golden State Valkyries. They're terrible. They don't have much talent. They're a brand new team. They're bad for a reason, but first game at home, first WNBA team in San Francisco. I think there's a little narrative there as well, playing against LA. So +7. Nothing is official yet, but those are two of the leans that I have for Friday night. And then Saturday night, I just think Indiana is going to blow out Chicago. There's way too much talent here. There's way too much shooting here. And -7.5 feels like it should be much higher than that. So I lean Indiana Fever as well.
So it's funny. I have a guy who I talk to really sharp. He does modeling for the W, and we see eye to eye, like literally on almost everything. So what I think, in my opinion, always matches sort of his metrics and his opinion too. But we are just clashing a little bit in a playful way on the sky. He thinks they're going to take a big jump this year. He thinks what Cardoso's done in the offseason, and when you have Vandersloot running the offense, and that they're just going to click and they're going to be much better. And I just think they were horrendous last year when Kennedy Carter didn't play, like completely inept offensively. So that is a concern. Like, two things can be right in my opinion. Like, they could be better, right? They could take a step forward, but that means they don't lose by 15, they lose by 6. So I'm with you. Like, the Fever should blow them out. He does like Indiana in this game, by the way, but he thinks the Sky could go to the playoffs, and maybe they do. I think that's a really interesting discussion as well, because I think you basically have 7 guaranteed teams in the playoffs, and then 3 teams that don't have a chance. So that leaves 3 teams, if I'm doing my math, for 1 spot. Okay, 3, maybe 3 teams for 1 spot, and 2 guaranteed no. So something like that. So it's like the Sky, the Sparks, the Wings, all competing for that 8th spot, assuming Atlanta's part of the 7 that are guaranteed to go. And so that's the question: are the Sky better than the Sparks? Because the Sparks don't have Brink back. She's expected in June. Where would their record be? I mean, they only won 8 games last year. I know they've had Kelsey Plum, but they still only won 8 games last year. Dallas brings in Beckers. They lose some other pieces. Their defense was horrendous. So it's fascinating. But I'm with you. I think the Fever win by like 20. But that game, all things considered, is at home in the afternoon. But I think Chicago will be good. They have a lot of front court depth, but I don't think they can score at all. I mean, Sloot's a little old, so I'm with you on the Fever there.
The other interesting thing about the WNBA when it comes to futures is the trade deadline is more similar to baseball than it is to the NBA basketball. Like, if you are one of those teams that are on the fringe or you're a championship caliber team, there's teams that actually go for it and they're going to make moves at the deadline to show that. And then the teams that are far away from it, they're going to make moves for the future, and they're very, very, um, you know, um, very obvious when it comes to those type of moves. So, I mean, those are potential. If Chicago's a fringe team and they're looking to, this is their opportunity to make the playoffs before some of the other teams come up. I think this is a good opportunity for Chicago to actually go for it if they're around there, right? And the other thing is, being around fringe teams in playoffs doesn't mean you're a winning team either. You could win 40% of the games and still be in playoff contention in the WNBA.
Okay, I was going to wrap up the show right now. Let's at least wrap up the WNBA talk, because we have breaking news. Just a couple minutes left here, and I think it's worth dissecting. Is Jamal Murray now listed as questionable
Hmm.
with an illness? And so at Bet Rivers, the number's still 4.5. The juice is moving. It's minus 113. The over under's down to 216 now. And I mean, gosh, how do you just hammer 4.5 thinking the market's going to move? Again, questionable. Doesn't mean he's out, but he's clearly under the weather. He hasn't played great at times. So not saying it's a hidden benefit, but I think the pace is going to slow drastically. I think Denver's in for a world of hurt right now, don't you?
Oh yeah, if they don't have Jamal Murray at 100%, I think I already thought, right, this series is over with OKC. I'm on their side, but without Jamal Murray, especially without playoff Jamal Murray, who we know is a very very great player, I yeah, world of hurt for sure. And I think OKC's the team with so much, youth and exuberance that they're gonna pour it on you. They're not gonna feel bad that, you don't have Jamal Murray. I think they have the players and the depth to really take advantage of that. And we know without Jamal Murray, it doesn't mean Michael Porter Jr. is gonna shoot better for some reason, right? He's
Sure.
struggling with his shoulder, and he hasn't shot great outside of one game. So if he's gonna get up more shots, that doesn't mean they're gonna be better. Russell Westbrook, I think he airballed two or three threes in game five. Like he's not gonna out of nowhere start hitting the rim because Jamal Murray is out. So this is a big thing. Yeah, thanks for letting me know. I'm gonna probably lock in Thunder minus 4.5 right now.
Yeah, I would have to do that too. So I'm going to add that play to my list. So I was officially only on the under. I'm going to add minus 4.5. I think that is the play. I think that's just a little too much to ask of Denver. But you know what? Instead of minus 4.5, I'm just going to do the Denver team total
Mm,
under. So I'm going to go game under that I already, we locked in, and then do Denver's team total under as well. So that I think is the right way to play, because if the Thunder just shoot super tight and everything like that, then so be it. At least it's a lower scoring game. I don't think the Nuggets offense can sort of do. I mean, they're already thin, right? They play one or two guys tops off the bench, double digits in minutes played. They're going every other game since game 5 of the previous series with the Clippers. Like, they're running on fumes, but they are at home. I just think this could be a absolute rock fight.
yep, I agree with you there.
All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Betting Weekly Fast Break. We'll wrap up the week with both Betting Weekly Fast Break tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, and also Betting Weekly Hardball, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. We'll have more WNBA look with Wes Reynolds tomorrow, professional bettor from San Diego and sort of Las Vegas. Chris Macero is going to be joining us tomorrow for Betting Weekly Hardball. So a lot of good stuff all week. And we'll wrap up the work week tomorrow with those guests. Albert, really appreciate the insight. I know our listeners do. The chat was humming as well. A lot of good questions and a lot of good dialogue as the W gets going tomorrow, starting tomorrow, but all weekend. It's opening weekend. So for everyone behind the scenes and that does such a great job in the control room, for Albert Nguyen, I'm Doug Kezirian. We'll see you back here tomorrow.